There is a battle happening inside you, not the kind with swords or soldiers, but the kind with thoughts, with beliefs, with invisible forces that whisper who you are, what you're capable of, and whether or not you'll ever rise. You may not see it, but this war rages every time you wake up in the morning and doubt yourself. It rages when you feel something pulling you forward, and something heavier pulling you back. It rages in your silence, in your habits, in the 1,000 invisible choices you make each day without even thinking. And the truth? You will either win the inner war, or the outer world will defeat you. Not because it's stronger, but because you gave up the battlefield within. You were born with the power to direct your mind. But most people hand over that power before they even know it exists. They don't choose their thoughts. They inherit them. They don't shape their beliefs. They accept them. They don't train their mindset. They surrender to it. And then they wonder why life never bends in their favor. Listen to me. Life bends for the man who bends himself first. It obeys the one who has disciplined his attention, his habits, his inner narrative. You want power in the world? Claim it in your mind first. Before the empire, there must be the man. Before the man, there must be the mastery. And before the mastery, there must be the war against distraction, against apathy, against self-pity, procrastination, mediocrity, and every seductive lie that tells you to play small, fit in, and wait. Wait for the perfect moment. Wait for motivation. Wait for clarity. Wait until the fear goes away. But here's the truth that no one wants to hear. The fear will never go away. It is part of the war. And the goal is not to escape it. The goal is to fight anyway. The war is not won in one grand moment. It is won in the daily grind, in the decisions no one sees, in the moments you choose discipline over indulgence, courage over comfort, purpose over pleasure. Because every time you do, you stack a brick in the fortress of your mind. And brick by brick, you become unshakable. But you must start with this. What do you believe about yourself right now? Because your beliefs are the architects of your reality. They form the frame of your possibilities. They determine what you'll try, what you'll ignore, what you'll chase, and what you'll tolerate. A man with weak beliefs can never build a strong life. A man who doubts himself in silence will always sabotage himself in action. You don't get what you wish for. You get what you're wired for. And right now, most people are wired to lose. They're wired to react instead of respond, to compare instead of create, to scroll instead of study, to shrink instead of step forward. But you are not most people. You've felt the war. You've tasted the tension between who you are and who you could be. And you know, deep down, that if you don't rewire your mind, you'll relive the same patterns, the same pain, the same prison. This is your turning point, not because of some external opportunity, but because you're ready to take command. You must become a general of your own thoughts. You must declare war on the mental habits that keep you average. You must attack your excuses with the same intensity you've used to avoid your greatness. You must ask yourself, and answer honestly, are you a slave to your mood or a servant to your mission? Do your feelings dictate your discipline? Or does your discipline dictate your future? Because a man who is ruled by how he feels will never become who he's called to be. You must build mental muscles strong enough to carry the weight of your destiny. That means learning how to sit in discomfort without escaping, how to delay gratification without self-pity, how to show up on the days you feel least like it, because those days are the most critical. Your dreams are not waiting for the version of you who's in the mood. They are waiting for the man who shows up regardless. The man who speaks truth to himself when lies creep in. The man who doesn't wait to feel confident, but acts until confidence is earned. The man who trains his mind every morning like a warrior sharpens his blade. Not because it's fun, but because it's necessary. You must decide, once and for all, that you are no longer available for weakness. Not because you're perfect, but because you're on a mission. A mission to own your mind. A mission to build something unshakable inside yourself. A mission to become the man the world cannot ignore. And that man? He is built, not born. Forged, not found. Disciplined, not distracted. He doesn't blame. He doesn't beg. He doesn't fold under pressure. He commands. He directs his thoughts like weapons. He engineers his environment to serve his focus. He carves his habits with surgical precision. There is no man more dangerous to mediocrity than the one who has rewired his mind. Because once your mind is free, everything becomes possible. Understand this. Your thoughts are not just thoughts. They are blueprints. They are commands to the subconscious. They are signals to your nervous system telling it how to act, how to feel, and how to interpret the world around you. Most men are living inside of cages they didn't even build. Cages handed down by teachers, parents, media, and broken systems. Cages made of small thinking, toxic self-talk, and subconscious rules like don't dream too big. Stay realistic. Success is for others, not for you. Money is evil. You're not good enough. Lies. Lies that have wrapped themselves so tightly around their identity, they no longer even see the bars. And so they adjust their life to fit the limits of their mind, instead of expanding their mind to meet the calling of their life. But not you. You're here to shatter those walls, to uninstall every belief that was never yours, to reprogram your operating system so it aligns with power, with truth, with who you're really here to be. Because here's what they won't tell you. You are not your thoughts. You are the director of your thoughts. And when you finally step into that role with authority, you stop reacting to the past and you start creating the future. You start asking bold questions like, what do I want to believe? What kind of man would I be if I believed that success was certain? What would I build if I actually believed it was possible? And that's when the shift happens. Not outside, but within. Because the minute you stop negotiating with limitation, you start moving like a man with nothing to prove and everything to build. That's the man who walks into a room and doesn't need to announce himself. He doesn't chase approval. He lives from alignment. He's not desperate for opportunity because he's already made a decision that says, I will not shrink to fit your comfort. I will not abandon my greatness just to blend in. I will become exactly who I was created to be, and I will not apologize for it. This kind of conviction is rare, but it is learned. It is trained. It is built one powerful belief at a time. And here's the truth. You become what you rehearse. So if you rehearse fear, you become fearful. If you rehearse doubt, you become hesitant. If you rehearse mediocrity, you start calling average normal. But if you rehearse greatness, if you rehearse faith, vision, persistence, you hardwire those into your soul. And once they're hardwired, they become automatic. Now, this is where the real inner war is fought. Not in what you do, but in what you believe is possible. Every morning you wake up, you're handed a mirror. You can either see a man full of flaws and failure, or a man full of fire and unfinished potential. And the image you choose to believe? That's the one your life will bend around. Because belief is gravity. And whatever you believe pulls your reality toward it. That's why men who believe in scarcity always find themselves in lack. That's why men who believe they're not enough sabotage every opportunity that would prove them wrong. But the man who believes in abundance, The man who believes he was built for something massive. The man who believes his life is not a mistake, but a mission. That man becomes uncontainable. He thinks differently. He speaks with clarity. He moves with direction. He doesn't need perfect plans because he has personal power. He doesn't wait for signs because he already made the decision. He builds while others sleep. He sharpens while others scroll. He studies while others complain. He rises while others rot in mediocrity. And it's not because he's better. It's because he's awake. Awake to the truth that his mind was never the enemy. It was only untrained. And now that he's taken control, now that he's rewritten the code, he is unstoppable. That's what you're doing now. You're not just listening to motivation. You're laying bricks. You're installing truth. You're rewiring the man from the inside out. And that man? He doesn't chase status. He lives from stature. There is a difference. Status is given. Stature is earned. Status is loud. Stature is unshakable. And when you live from stature, from inner truth, from grounded belief, from full alignment, you become the kind of man the world must respond to. Why? Because the world bends for men who have mastered their inner world. You want influence? Then own your inner dialogue. You want leadership? Then lead yourself through every storm. You want wealth, impact, and legacy? Then outgrow your current identity and step into the one that scares you, the one that stretches you, the one that demands you burn the old version of yourself to build the new. This is not theory. This is battle. And the prize is your future. The man who rewires, it's not enough to think differently. It's not enough to believe differently. At some point, you have to move differently. Discipline is the bridge between belief and reality. It's the sword you sharpen every day, whether you feel like it or not. Most men wait for inspiration, but the rare few, the ones who build legacies, they move without it. They don't ask, "How do I feel?" They ask, "What must be done?" Because they understand something the average man never will. Your future doesn't care about your feelings. Your vision does not depend on your emotions. It depends on your execution. Every empire was built on mundane moments, moments when the builder showed up tired, but still laid the brick, when he felt doubt crawling in, but still made the call, when nobody clapped, nobody noticed, nobody praised, but he still stayed on mission. That is discipline. And it's rare because it costs everything. It costs comfort. It costs distraction. It costs the version of you who wants things to be easy. But that version of you, he has to die. Because there is no room for softness in the soul of a man who's building something eternal. The world will offer you 1,000 easy paths, but they all lead to regret. Only one road leads to the man you're destined to become. And that road is paved in early mornings, late nights, sacrifices made in silence, and an unbreakable promise to yourself: I will not stop, I will not stall, I will not settle. Discipline is not about punishment, it's about alignment. It's not about forcing action, it's about becoming the kind of man who follows through. Because the moment you say, "I'll do it tomorrow," you train your brain that your word means nothing. And a man who cannot trust himself will never be trusted by the world. So let me ask you, what are you rehearsing right now? What identity are you reinforcing with every small decision? Because every time you break a promise to yourself, you vote for weakness. And every time you keep it, you vote for mastery. This is not about grand gestures. It's about small wins, stacked daily, until you no longer recognize the man you used to be. You don't wake up powerful. You build power. You build it in the reps no one sees. You build it when you choose water over the whiskey, focus over the feed, work over the excuse. You build it in the gym, in the journal, in the choices you make at 5 a.m. when no one's watching. And over time, something sacred happens. You become sovereign. You no longer need to be pushed. You no longer need to be reminded. You no longer outsource responsibility to anyone. You are the one who decides, the one who sets the tone, the one who creates pressure, not crumbles under it. And when you live this way, the world responds. It starts to shift. Doors begin to open. People begin to follow. Not because you're lucky, but because you are undeniable. You've become a force, a walking vibration of integrity, intensity, and inner alignment. You don't ask for confidence, you earn it. By doing what you said you'd do, again and again and again. And that kind of repetition, it reprograms your identity at the core. It turns the question from, "Can I do this?" to, "This is who I am." That is the true reward of discipline. Identity transformation. It's not just about reaching goals, it's about becoming unrecognizable to the man you used to be. That man? He folded under pressure. He waited to feel ready. He made excuses when it got hard. But you burn that version of yourself. You kill him with every rep, every cold shower, every early wake-up. And in the ashes, you build someone new, someone who doesn't negotiate with fear, someone who doesn't ask the world for permission, someone who shows up as if destiny is already written. Because when you carry that kind of certainty, the world has to respond. Not because it's fair, but because it's law. The law of identity. The law of cause and effect. The law that says you will always get in life what you are willing to become. And that's what separates the kings from the victims. The king doesn't wait to be rescued. He becomes his own savior. He doesn't complain about the system. He creates his own. He doesn't just play the game, he rewrites it. And he does it all without needing to be loud, without needing applause, without needing the world to understand. He moves in silence. He builds in the dark. And one day, the results speak so loud that no one can look away. That's where you're headed. Not to some fantasy of success, but to a new identity. An identity forged in discipline. An identity that cannot be shaken, cannot be bought, cannot be copied. Because it is yours. You earned it. And when a man earns his identity, he becomes unbreakable. This is the path. It is not easy, but it is worth it. Because the man who wins the inner war will never again be ruled by the outer world. There comes a point in every man's life when he must answer one question. A question that splits history in two. What am I here for? Not what do I do for a living? Not how do I make money? But why did God, the universe, life itself, breathe me into existence? Because once you touch that answer, once you see your purpose with absolute clarity, you will never again settle for survival. You were not made to merely pay bills, scroll feeds, and die with regret. You were made to lead, to impact, to build, and not just for you, but for generations you may never meet. That is the power of vision. And if you've never felt it, it's because the world has trained you to think small. They sold you a lie, that your life is about comfort, about staying safe, about fitting in. But your soul knows better. Your soul didn't come here to play defense. It came here to expand. It came here to plant flags on mountains you've never climbed. It came here to speak truth in rooms full of silence. It came here to build the inner kingdom so you could shape the outer world. But make no mistake, you cannot fulfill your vision if you don't become the man who can carry it. Your vision is not waiting on the economy. It's not waiting on your past to change. It's waiting on you to rise to the level of responsibility it demands. Because every great vision requires a greater version of you. The man you are today may not be enough for what's coming. And that's exactly the point. You're not supposed to be ready. You're supposed to grow into readiness, to rise into capacity, to become so capable, so focused, so convicted that your presence becomes prophetic. People should feel something shift when you walk into the room, not because of your suit or your resume, but because you've done the inner work, because you've slain the dragons within your own soul, because you've refused to let your past dictate your potential, because you carry a vision that demands respect, even in silence. The greatest men in history were not those with the loudest voices. They were those with the clearest mission. Think of Lincoln, of Mandela, of Churchill, of King. They weren't just men with dreams. They were men possessed by purpose. And their vision didn't come from ego. It came from the fire inside. That fire is inside you too. It's just been buried. Buried under doubt. Buried under fear. Buried under the noise of a world that doesn't want you to wake up. Because a man with a vision cannot be controlled. You can't distract him. You can't bribe him. You can't weaken him with comfort, because he is building something bigger than himself. And that is your invitation now. To stop living like you have time. To stop waiting for the world to approve. To stop playing small when you were called to shake nations. You are not here to blend in. You are not here to repeat what has already been done. You are here to build what's never been built, through you. And for that, you must be ruthless with your mind. You must guard your vision like a sacred flame. That means eliminating distractions, cutting off relationships that pull you backward, protecting your energy, your environment, and your attention like your future depends on it. Because it does. If your vision doesn't scare you a little, it's not big enough. And if it doesn't cost you your old identity, it's not worthy of your destiny. You want legacy? Then live like it. Move like a man who's being watched by his future children. Make decisions like your last name depends on it. Speak like you're the mouthpiece for a generation still in the dark. Because the world is not suffering from a lack of money. It's suffering from a lack of men with vision. Men who are willing to delay pleasure for purpose. Men who are willing to carry burdens no one will ever see. Men who will bleed for a future they might not even get to enjoy. But they know their sons will. That's legacy. That's calling. That's manhood at the highest level. It is not built in a day, but it is built daily. Every time you say no to weakness, you build. Every time you show up when it's hard, you build. Every time you choose principle over popularity, you build. And over time, the man you were fades. And the man you were born to be rises. He becomes immovable, unshakable, a lighthouse in a storm, a kingdom that cannot be bought, broken, or bribed. That man isn't fiction. He's already inside you, waiting for your decision, waiting for you to go all in, waiting for you to stop postponing the life you were meant to live. Because once you win the inner war, once you choose clarity over chaos, vision over noise, destiny over delay, the outer world will have no choice but to respond. Now is the moment. Not next week. Not when you feel ready. Not when it's convenient. Now the inner war is not something you schedule. It's something you face. And if you don't face it, it will shape you anyway. But not in your favor. If you don't take the throne of your own mind, someone else will. If you don't program it with power, the world will fill it with fear. So you must decide, right here, right now, decide that you are done outsourcing your power, done rehearsing weakness, done waiting for the world to crown you king when you haven't yet claimed the kingdom within. Because if you don't own yourself, you don't own anything. Not your future, not your legacy, not your peace, not your soul. And if you can't own your soul, you can't lead anyone else. The men who move history, the men who break cycles, the men who reshape bloodlines, They are the men who conquer themselves first. The man who wins the inner war becomes dangerous. Not in violence, but in vibration. He becomes a walking contradiction to mediocrity. He is focused while others are distracted. Calm while others are chaotic. Grounded while others chase approval. You feel him before he speaks. You trust him without knowing why, because the frequency of integrity is unmistakable. This is what you're being called into. No more double-mindedness, no more half-built dreams, no more sleepwalking through a life that demands you roar. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are not too late. You are right on time. You are not at the mercy of your mind. You are its master. But mastery does not come through information. It comes through integration, through repetition, through battle, through showing up every single day like your soul depends on it. Because it does. You will not always be motivated. You will not always be celebrated. But you must always be devoted. Devoted to the highest version of yourself. Devoted to the vision that burns behind your eyes. Devoted to the unseen future that is waiting to be born through you. And if you stay faithful to that vision, if you keep showing up to the inner fight, again and again and again, then one day you'll look around and realize the war is no longer inside you, it's behind you. And in its place stands a man who did not run, who did not shrink, who did not make excuses, but who became. You'll see a man who turned his wounds into weapons, his fears into fuel, his doubts into discipline. You'll see a man who doesn't just talk about purpose, he embodies it. A man who lives like his life is a message. Because it is. A message to every young man watching, every son being shaped, every stranger wondering if they have what it takes. That message? Yes, you do. But not as you are. You must evolve. You must shed the smallness. You must rise above the noise. You must rebuild from the inside out. Because the world will not be changed by men who blend in. It will be changed by men who break the mold. And when they ask you how you did it, you won't point to luck. You won't point to talent. You'll point to the moment you took ownership of your inner world. And you'll say, I won here before I ever won out there. Because that's the truth. Every great business, every great relationship, every great movement, every great life began with a man who won the war within. And now it's your turn. So rise. Not tomorrow. Not when they believe in you. Not when it's comfortable. Now rise with the fire. Rise with the vision. Rise with the voice inside you that refuses to die. The voice that's been whispering all along, you were made for more. And not just more comfort. More impact. More meaning. More fire in your eyes and thunder in your footsteps. So burn the excuses. Break the cycles. Slay the inner critic. And become the man who makes the world take notice. Because once you win the inner war, the outer world is yours to command.